okay, there's always a transforming energy taking place in our lives. That's a good thing for us to depend upon and to remember about. We read often in New Testament, and it came to pass, da-da-da-da-da-da, and it came to pass. You could just take that part, and it came to pass, and it will bring us to the realization that it did not come to stay. We are always fluid. We are always flexible. We are always moving through whatever it is. The joys, the sorrows, all of it, we move through it with an underlying presence that is divine and eternal, and it's right where we are, no matter where we are, no matter what's going on, at all times. Once we realize that, we know that we are always making changes. You were once an infant. Do you remember? I have a couple of friends who do remember. I think that's astounding. Anyway, I'm about to digress, so there's no point in doing that. We start as infants. We learn all kinds of things. We don't realize in the beginning that this hand that we're looking at up here that's entertaining us is actually part of our body. Ultimately, we realize, all of this is what I get to walk around, not walk yet, but to roll around with and crawl around with, and I'll eventually stand up and run around, and this is my vehicle for living on planet Earth. And I'm so grateful that we all have this body that serves us beautifully, that moves through different changes, but we grow. And just as we change physically, so we change mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We are evolving. And that's a wonderful thing to realize, that it's important, I feel, for me anyway, and perhaps for you, to recognize the blessing of these transformative times, even though they might not have felt comfortable at the time. I'm sure that yoga, when she was sleeping under trucks, was not comfortable. And if she could tell us about it now, she would say, well, it was worth it. Look where I am now. And so we all move through these things, and we develop on our spiritual path. We become more of the self. Also, many wonderful things have been happening. So many things have been happening. Yesterday was the most wonderful experience. Reverend Mike and I got to go to Ambler, where, yes, Ambler's a wonderful place. Yeah, you like Ambler, yeah. It was at the Tullamore Country Club. Who knew there was a Tullamore Country Club? Elegant place there. And this was for the ordination of our beloved Reverend Twana Malone. And it was so beautiful and elegant, and I was so honored. She has been my sponsee, which has been a beautiful experience, because she's already, Spirit ordained her years ago, but this was just a party that we had. and we've met together and for 2 years, and we are so close. This is like our sister center in Elkins Park. And it was an absolutely beautiful experience. We have a wonderful page in here that was celebrating her from our own center. And I have a feather in my hand very much on purpose. Some of you may have remembered Reverend Sheila Pierce. And she was there for years and actually was the founding minister of that place. And it's been so beautiful. The consciousness there is awesome. They come here for things. We go there for things. And we're going to be planning some other things together coming up. But I'm not finding the page right now. But feathers were very important to Reverend Sheila. And so feathers we had. And all the visiting ministers got to touch her with the feather and to give her a special blessing after we had done the ordination. And I was so, so honored to be able to officiate at her ordination. It was beautiful. I have this here so you can look at it. But I want to tell you a little something about Reverend Twana. And that is that she's been growing in consciousness for years, just like everybody has. But she's exploded with hers. And the more I got to know her in our monthly meetings together, the more I learned about her life. She'd actually served in the military at one time. she was explaining all the weapons that she'd been armed with and everything, and when the time came that she was possibly supposed to have to use them, she said, no, I'm not going to do this. And said, give me another job. You can do that once, apparently. She has served for years as a hospice chaplain. And of course, so did I. So we had that in common as well. She has worked in many capacities at the Center of Peace, came in and studied with Reverend Sheila. She was administrator there for a while. She became a practitioner. She became Reverend Sheila's staff minister. And she just kept growing in consciousness. And she stepped into leadership when Reverend Sheila passed, and then became fully ordained yesterday. Each step that we take is essential. Each step, even though we're not always understanding where this is taking me, if we're following our inner wisdom, if we're following Spirit within, and taking that next step with confidence and faith, we're going to find ourselves in beautiful opportunities that we may never have really consciously imagined. But something within us said, there's something great here for me to experience and to do, and a way to bring more light into the world. And we all find our ways to do our own ministry. All of you get to do your own ministry wherever you are. I love seeing the people who are in corporate take this teaching into it without even necessarily saying a word. And yet when they have the opportunity, they do. But bringing our consciousness, bringing that presence of love and wisdom and compassion and possibility into every environment is a ministry that we actually all have. So every step leads to something greater. It's necessary. And it begins with a deep, deep embrace of the silence. And as Mother Teresa said, the fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. And the fruit of service is peace. We're all working toward that. Peace in our own lives, peace in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in the world. So yes, it's possible to become enlightened overnight. We can all become ascended masters right now. You want to do that? Wouldn't that be great? Let's just do it right now. But normally it occurs incrementally, step by step. We become closer and closer to the reality of who we are, that divine identity that we are all rediscovering. Because we're talking about the appreciation of the blessing of transformation. Thanksgiving's coming up. I think one of the things that we get to be thankful for is every time we get to move out of a new cocoon and spread our wings and let them dry in the sunlight and realize who we truly are. And it doesn't stop there, because it's a process. We go through life continually evolving in so many beautiful ways. And it takes courage to do this. And our theme for the month of November is freedom from fear and error thinking. So we're moving into the truth, and it's always an inside job. And we bless the myriad of challenges that now bring us to a point of more conscious choices. Can't you think back over your life to the things that you thought were so devastating and so constricting, perhaps, that you couldn't necessarily see a way out? And maybe that turned out to be a bit of a womb for you, a cocoon, where you got to strengthen and grow and become more aware and more loving and more compassionate and wiser, and ultimately moved out of that, and you could bless that. I would imagine that if the butterfly could do that, it would look back at the cocoon and say, thanks, I needed that. And so even though we don't always know that we need that, if we rise in consciousness, no matter what may be taking place, and discover the possibility that this is a stepping off place, that we then turn the rocks in the road into stepping stones. And we find ourselves moving forward in a way we didn't realize we could. Wow, Thursday's storm, was that something? Was anybody out there driving in it? Oh, I have such admiration for you. And I love that you're here. Thank you. And thank you, Infinite Mind, for bringing our beloved ones safely where they belong. But I know it was pretty treacherous out there, wasn't it? It was one day filled with amazing events, and I stayed in. That was a good thing. And those of you who moved through it and helped other people moving through it, amazing. People helping other people is what we all need to step up to do here. The raging fires in California. I told you last week how our beautiful 65-year-old church in Paradise, California is gone. And the houses of many of the people in that congregation, gone. And I get updates from my minister friends who are in the area, and there's all kinds of like refugee camps set up because people don't have homes. Food trucks are coming in. They're bringing in porta potties. They've brought in lots of clothes and blankets, and they're trying to find centers where people can be supported. At this point, I understand that what they really need now is like gift cards, gas cards, and any way we can help, we can do that. I have the information. We can send it to Reverend Christine Jeffers in Chico, and she's distributing them through the Paradise community. If you want to help, let me know. We can help. We can find a way to do that. It reminds me of when I was living in the East Bay of San Francisco. This must have been 26 or so years ago. Ever hear of the Oakland fires? I would be driving. They shut down the Caldecott Tunnel that goes from the East Bay into San Francisco and Oakland. Finally opened them, and when we would drive by there, after the fires, we'd look up in the Oakland Hills, the Berkeley Hills. It looked like a moonscape. Everything was gone. Not everything, but a lot of things. And it wasn't that much later when we would drive by and the houses had been rebuilt and they were more beautiful than ever before. And the vegetation was back. You go past there now, if you hadn't known about it, if you hadn't lived in the area at that time, you wouldn't even dream that it had ever taken place. So out of the ashes comes something even more beautiful. The same thing is going to happen. Right now it's Paradise Lost. It's going to become Paradise Refound. And better yet, it's important for us to have the compassion to open our hearts to what's going on, at the same time that we remember this is a transformation, and newer and better. When the forest fires happen, that seems devastating, and yet the new little saplings start coming up. There's a homeostasis that takes place in nature, and it takes place within us too. Look at me walking already. I'm staying up here, but look at me walking already. There's a movement that takes place in all of life as we're open to it. And it's important that we realize it's not we of ourselves, but this incredible power for good within us, within the entire world, within every sentient being, that rises up when we allow ourselves to come up to that place of discovery and rediscovery of the truth of our being in this beloved planet on which we live. I also am aware, many of you know I've spoken about our Center for Spiritual Living in Ukraine that was established by Reverend Barbara Leger 18 years ago. And this center, when the tanks were coming in, the Russian tanks were coming into Ukraine, Reverend Barbara and her practitioners all went out into the public square, held hands, and stood there. They are all about establishing peace now. That's their motto. Peace Now. And Barbara is intent on establishing it in her lifetime. I'm supporting her in that. Got an email from her. I put together an outline each month of our topics and our affirmations and our bullet points that I'm going to be sharing with everyone. I just put out the December, and I send it not only to the people in here who need it, like the musicians and the practitioners and so forth, but Edie, but I always send it to our Centers for Spiritual Living field list. And people love getting that. It helps them focus in on, we could look at that point this Sunday, and maybe that would be helpful. And I get nice responses from my minister buddies. And Barbara loves this in Ukraine. She says that that they use a good deal of it, a good bit of it every month, and it helps them because she's really wanting to establish a consciousness of possibility there, and she's doing a great job. They call themselves the Ukraine Temenos East Community, and they're asking for some support right now, and I want to give it to them. She says that we'll be setting our annual and monthly theme as we must guide people really directly to do more than cope with the challenging conditions, but to use all the science, spirit, and wisdom of all the ways new thought is emerging in the collective mind and way of living that is the evolution of science of mind. And then she says, let me be bold now and ask you to consider 2 requests. So much has happened in my life since we met, propelled through a dark night and a long valley of reattuning to myself and the life within me that I am on the cusp of what I'm being born to be, entering the last 1/3 of my life, and even with even greater fire in my belly. Do I love that? She's got even greater fire in her belly. I clearly see the purpose of all that I have done to prepare me for this moment. So I'm being asked to be bold, daring, and filled with faith based on what I know is possible. Peace on earth in my lifetime, and all in caps. Yes, that's right. And what's even more bold is that I truly see that Ukraine is a midwife for God. How would you like peace to be born in the Ukraine? And here and everywhere. So she's asking if we'd partner with her in some way to make her challenge a bit lighter as they go into their 18th year of Ukraine. She wants prayer support, and I also have a bright idea because she's asking for a generous monetary gift. Her goal is $5,000. She's asking us if we might be able to come up with $250. Here's my brilliant idea. The board knows nothing about it. Haha, I'm here, you're not. This beautiful, bountiful bouquet, isn't it stunning? Look what we do when we bring our individual gifts together. Something amazing happens. Usually, at the end of each Sunday celebration, when we do the bountiful bouquet, we say, come on up and take a flower home. Today, I'm going to put it a little bit differently. There is a crystal bowl over there in that welcome table. And I'm asking that, yes, come and take a flower, but before you do, put $1 or more in that bowl. And when we get to the $250, we'll send it to them. Is that a good idea? So today, you're going to get to buy your flower. Only $1 or more. And that will give it even more meaning when you take your flower home and put it in a special place, because you know you've done something else that's wonderful. Yes, we have a main need right here to continue to grow our own community. At the same time, we are open to what's going on in the world and how we can do our part to help over and above. Did you hear that, Madam Treasurer? Over and above what we give here to our own community. And we can do that. I'm sending my personal check to the fires. And what else occurs to me? And I'm stepping up. And we can all step up to this place. Oh, her second request was that that I join in and on a Wednesday morning in 2019 and give a presentation for Ukraine. Oh, on Zoom. But wouldn't it be fun to go there? So I'm excited about our opportunities. I truly know that what we have here is something so bright and so beautiful that we can share it with each other, first of all, because this is a loving, supportive womb in which we are all evolving and growing spiritually, and then beyond. So we surrender to the transforming power of love. There's a lot of surrendering that has to take place. Because if we become rigid and if we become opinionated and we look at somebody who's done something out there and blame and criticize in our own minds and have opinions. Anybody here have opinions? It's too easy to slip into the opinions about, well, you shouldn't have done that, and look at your consequences instead of, I don't know where you are on your spiritual path. I don't know why that behavior is taking place, but I do know that there is a transforming power of love and wisdom. And I'm calling on it for myself, for anybody else that I would start to judge. I would rather know every one of us is moving along on our spiritual path and more with grace and ease. Oh, I'm so happy about this. Oh, big steps. Let's take big steps. Let's take big steps within our own consciousness about how we can rise up and do what we're here to do. We have been growing physically, mentally, emotionally, becoming more harmonious, deeper, more profound, more aware, and more determined to do what we came here to do. Individually, and as this beloved community. I am in love with this beloved community. And by the way, so is Eddie Watkins Jr. and Marianne. They keep putting stuff on Facebook. They said if it weren't so cold here, we'd be here. But we'll come back again in the spring. People touch into this community here and feel the love, the warmth, the willingness to see the potentiality that we know is possible in every single case in our own individual lives, in the life of this beloved community and beyond, in our country, in the world. We are here very much on purpose. And I'm very much for peace now in our time too. You know, there are times that we think we're never going to see this. I think it's time we stop thinking that way. I'm willing to see it. I'm willing to experience it. Let's all be willing to take that step so that we are appreciating all that has taken place, and then be willing to release all of that and move into co-creating a magnificent new world. That's why we are gathered to do that for ourselves, for each other, and beyond. Will you say with me, I'm thankful for all the good in my world. I'm thankful for the transforming power of God in my life. And so, my beloveds, beginneth your lesson. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.